If you have questions, concerns, and are just lost when it comes to planning for retirement, meet Steve Hoyl and Derrick Caldwell of the Hoyl Financial Group. Now, one of the most common fears that everyone expresses, it's the number one fear when it comes to planning for retirement, is, of course, running out of money. Coming up on a close second is, well, how much do I have to have saved? Is there a, quote, magic number? Well, for retirement savings, this magic number has swelled to an all-time high. There's a recent study that found that Americans estimate they should save at least $1.46 million for a comfortable retirement. But the problem is they're worried they're not going to be able to reach that goal. So a couple things here, guys. Steve, do you think that we should focus on a number when it comes to retirement planning, or is that a mistake?
Absolutely not. I think you need to focus on how much income that money can generate during retirement. Now, I'm not saying that you don't need a nice nest egg, but it's all about how much income you can generate. And if you think about the fulcrum, kind of the effect you can have, when you have time on your side and can let that money grow, that income amount roll up every year, let's say at 9.5%, let it roll up every year. So say you had 10,000 would come a month now. Each year that would grow by 9.5%, that number. You know, a lot of people, Derrick, come to see us and say, I have this bucket of money over here. You know, I changed jobs. I have this IRA money, this 401k money. What do I need to do with it? So many people say that they need to let it grow. I disagree. Yes, it needs to grow and you need to mitigate the risk. But when you let that start rolling up for income, it really makes a huge difference. Derrick?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors here. And I always kind of wonder, like, where do they get these numbers from? You know, it's sort of like a random, arbitrary number they throw out there. But yes, having more assets definitely makes it easier in retirement. And, you know, the more you have, you know, the better, obviously. But as far as planning aspect and whether or not you're going to have a certain amount of money and you need that certain amount of money to live, that comes a lot down to a couple things. Like, Steve, you mentioned income, right? Where's your income coming from? And when we talk about income here, guys, we're talking about guaranteed sources of income like Social Security, or in most cases your job, unless you're laid off by email, apparently. But, you know, where is your income coming from that you can rely on? Because if your answer is the stock market, that's not the correct answer. The volatility that the stock market produces every year, I mean, we've been through 2001, 2008, I mean, 2020, in 2022. I mean, and that's just four right off the top of my head, right? I mean, when you have a 20% loss and you're taking income off of that money, you're just digging a way deeper hole. So you have to have a different strategy there. And that goes to, you know, Steve, you're always talking about different buckets of money and how they work together. But yeah, I mean, a arbitrary number is not what we're looking for. It's how you can grow that income, how you can sustain it and have guaranteed source of income, and also have other assets that are meant to grow. You have assets that maybe you use for long-term care, or you have a long-term care policy. I mean, we look at all those different type of things because that's far more important than just the number you have. It's the plan that you put in place for that. And that's something that, I mean, we do on a daily basis for people. That's far more valuable for people than just giving me a number there. So,
well, you know, our phones, we had so many people call last week because we talked about income, you know, and people are calling going, I need some help with my income. What I find so often, Derrick, is that people would go ahead and retire if they had the income component figured out. You just don't know what you don't know. And if you have that and have a partnership with someone like us where you can sit down and have that plan, then you kind of have like a dartboard. You know, if I retire today, I'm going to be out here. If I retire in a couple of years, a little bit closer in. If I retire, say, in 4 years is my magic number, I'm right in the middle. But, you know, I'll see a lot of people all of a sudden because of health reasons or family reasons or their job leaves them, like Tesla. You have to retire early. So, I mean, there's lots of options out there. But what I know is the numbers never lie.
There are some in the financial world that consider the word annuities to be bad. But Barron's writer Elizabeth O'Brien, she says the stigma is just largely outdated.
Well, these are not your father's annuities. These are different. The annuities that got a bad rap, and sometimes deservedly so, were often variable annuities that had very high fees, high surrender charges. They were just not the greatest investments. But the ones that are now starting to crop up in 401k plans are fixed annuities, which have historically been lower cost. Now, in 401 401k plans are even lower because you've got institutional pricing. And so they're definitely a different breed of annuity that's worth a look to divert a portion of your 401k into guaranteed income for life.
Well, the problem really is that while annuities have been permitted in 401ks for several years now, only about 13% of the plans offer them. So how do we create this opportunity for ourselves?
Oh, well, anybody over the age of 59 and a half, or I say anybody, 95% of people over 59 and a half can take control of their 401k. So the open market has a ton of different annuities, guys. And I'm going to tell you, fixed index annuities and fixed annuities are where it's at. Most of the time, our strategy is either no fee if you're looking for growth or an income plan for an income rider annuity. And we don't use variable annuities. And that's something that she touched on there. They are high in fees. And if you've had an annuity longer than 5 years, guys, most likely, if you take our annuity challenge, we're going to kill that thing. And I'll tell you, because just the other day, I had a client came in, had 2 annuities, and Steve, you're not going to believe this. Their S&P cap, and everybody, what that is the most you can gain in the S&P 500 index, which is the most common index for indexed annuities, was 2.5%.
Wow.
Steve.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, fixed annuities are at 5%, and they're capped at 2.5%. Yeah, they're cutting his legs out from under him. So we're moving those currently, and we've probably moved 5 or 6 in the last 2 weeks, guys. Take our annuity challenge. If you have an old annuity, I mean, we can kill that thing, guys. Telling you right now.
You know, Derrick, it's exciting when you think about one of our strategies has 10% fixed year one. So just think about put $100,000 in there, put $500,000 in there for year one. It's not tied to the market. It's 100% fixed. Boom, 10%. And then the beginning of year two, you can then tie it to the S&P 500 with a 15% cap. So what that means to you out there is that if the S&P is up 12%, you get 12%. If it's up 16% the next year, you get 15%. That's how much you make of the movement. But the great thing is in 2022, when the S&P was down nearly 20%, zero is your hero, and you don't lose anything that year. So you can't lose money. You can only make money. But when you can capture up to 15% of the cap, it's huge. You know, call us, we'll sit down and talk about the details on how it works. But why would you want to be out there in the market right now when it's hanging out there so far? And, you know, there's so many strategists talking about that we'll have the largest correction in the history of the stock market this year. What's interesting is, why would you want to be in the market when today, why would you not want this kind of protected strategy as compared to being out there in the market? You know, so many economists out there are talking about in 2024, it will have the largest correction in the history of my lifetime. Wow. I mean, think about that. So, you know, safe money's where it's out. Absolutely. Like Derrick says, you need market exposure. Sure you do. But you need upside potential and mitigate the risk. That's what it's about.
Steve, those are a lot of great opportunities that you're talking about here. And Derrick, just a few moments ago, you mentioned the annuity challenge that our listeners can call and give it to you and say, hey, Derrick, Steve, here's the annuity challenge from me. Tell me what you can do. Tell me more about this challenge and what can our listeners get from you?
Oh, absolutely. You know, annuity challenge is kind of a thing me and Steve started a while back, and we had seen so many people that were looking at annuities, and they had old ones, and they were bringing them to us. I mean, it was constant that they'd bring us, and hey, I had this, annuity. It's not doing very much for us. And we start to look at it, and guess what, Jess? They weren't. So we started doing an annuity challenge, and we have things in YouTube videos and all kinds of stuff about it. And, send us your statement, come in the office, whatever you want to do, and we can sit down and look over your annuity. And within 15 minutes, I'm going to tell you, is it good? Is it bad? The ugly of it? And verify that it's meeting what you bought it for in the first place. Meeting that need is very important. If you're 80 years old and you have an income rider on your annuity that you've never activated, I can tell you right now, you're in the wrong annuity. So there's so many different factors there. Give me 15 minutes, guys, and I can give you 2 years of your life back where you can drag that away from your boss, right, and retire. And when we look at people that have funds in the market, like Steve mentioned, take control of that. The number one thing we hear when people come in our office is, I'm in them 100% in the market, and I hope it doesn't go down. We
Hope's not a plan, Derrick.
Yeah, we hear it all the time. And it's like, just like you said, hope is not a plan. Take that step forward, and I will show you, if you don't have an annuity, how an annuity can benefit you as a piece of your portfolio to create and mitigate less risk in your portfolio. So if something does happen, like in 2024 that they're projecting out, then it's not going to ruin it where you have to work another 10 years, guys. Come on.
Well, you know what's interesting, Derrick, is I have people say, wait, I have a couple more years of surrender charge. We'll figure that out. We have bonuses that will make up for that. And also, so many people are hanging out there with that annuity because when I get ready to turn this income on, this income is so high. Absolutely not. It's not high. We can beat that income 90 to 95% of the time.
Now, Steve, you've been in the business. You've been doing this over 3 decades. There's a reason why you've been doing it so well. You help people, just like our listeners, get to that retirement finish line with flying colors and confidence. What do you think makes you and Hoyl Financial stand out?
You know what? I think it's all about the details. It's our Hoyl Financial family serving our client's family. We're going to sit down and get to know you and really find out what's most important to you. So many people want to just focus on the numbers, but when we're going to focus on not only the emotions of your money, but also those numbers and really have a plan in place. It's not a cookie cutter deal. We're going to focus on your taxes. We're going to focus on legacy planning. We're going to focus on income. We're going to focus on mitigating the risk and making sure the plan you have is not only what you want, but it'll get you in retirement, or if you're in retirement, it'll get you through retirement. Having a plan, working the plan.
The tax benefit of a Roth IRA is something that we've talked about before, guys, but what about using a Roth IRA in case of an emergency? What does the law say, and would there be any real reason to use it that way, especially if you're under that key age of 59 and a half?
So, one of the first things law-wise is, you can withdraw your contributions. So that's what you put into it. Now, you can do that because you've already paid taxes on it. The first thing is you're defeating the whole purpose of what you put in if you do that. Number 2 is for first-time home purchase. I would say in most cases, if you don't have the funds and you have to grab them from your Roth, you may be making a bad financial decision in the first place. But some of the ones I see that are legitimate, there's a difference between a want and a need, right, guys? Too often do people get confused by those two. Emergency medical expenses, bam, that's a need. That's a medical emergency, something happened. You can withdraw, tax-free from that on your contributions. Qualified education expenses, it's hard to say, if not. But birth or adoption, adoption's an amazing thing. If you do that, and if you need expenses for that, you're giving somebody a home, a kid a home. But when we start looking at a lot of this stuff to buy a new home, honestly, I'm old, VP for Bank of America and everything. I'll tell you, if you need $10,000 for a down payment on a house and the only asset you have is your Roth to take it from, you're not ready to buy a home, guys. Let's plan. Let's do something different here. Robbing your Roth, and you're setting yourself back. So it really goes down to, how much will you be paying on taxes to make that? And then I can even project out how much that's going to hurt your retirement, because that $10,000 you take from your Roth today, 30 years from now, guys, that's $80,000.
Derrick, I think that a Roth IRA can be so powerful. So many people come to see us and say, well, I make too much for a Roth. Well, it doesn't matter how much you make for a Roth conversion. And when you can convert that money and all of a sudden pay the government in one payment, boom. If you could just all of a sudden, over 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, pay all the taxes on your qualified money, get the government as not being your profit partner, all of a sudden, everything you make is 100% yours. And all of a sudden, you can have tax-free income. I didn't say tax deferred, but tax-free income. For so many people, they come to see us, we sit down and run the numbers and see if it makes sense for you. But I'm going to tell you, all of a sudden, when you can possibly not have your Social Security taxed, not pay the Medicare tax, it makes a huge difference in retirement, Derrick.
Yeah, and if your advisor isn't talking to you about tax planning, they're doing you a disservice. And when we look at, using your any kind of retirement asset, even your regular 401k and everything for once, we hear that a lot, and that's that is a bad strategy. But really, you just need to decide what's important to you. So that's what I talk about when I say you give me 2 hours to plan with you, or you give your boss 2 more years of your life. That's a decision you have to make. So when you think about withdrawals, what's more important to you? That boat, that go-kart, whatever you're looking at buying, or retiring?
Taxes are on sale. I don't care whether you like Trump, you don't like Trump. I don't care whether you're red, blue, or purple, how you vote. But I'm going to tell you something. If the Trump tax package is not renewed in 2026, taxes in this country are going to crazy. They're going to be huge. It's going to be horrible. We're really in the lowest tax environment we've ever been in this country. And I know you don't feel that, but if the numbers really show that. And what an opportunity to get the government out of your money. All of a sudden, having tax-free income. You can pass that money on to your heirs tax-free.
If you'd like to sit down with Steve and Derrick or a member of the Hoyl Financial Group, visit retiretexasstyle.com.
Investment advice offered through Hoyl Wealth Management, a Texas-registered investment advisor able to provide investment advice in states where it's registered, exempt, or excluded from registration. Content contained herein should not be construed as an offer or solicitation for investment advice or for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Investments involve the risk of loss, including possible loss of principal. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, accounting, or legal professional before implementing any ideas or strategies discussed here. Content provided is obtained from sources believed to be reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to its accuracy or completeness. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Steve Hoyl, Texas Insurance License 716036. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Steve Hoyl is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Steve Hoyl is licensed in your state, please call 806-371-9473.